country where I come from, the truth is an irony. Just like animal farm, justice mean inequity. So who go say the truth? Who go say the truth? Christian can say silence, Islamic leaders silence, kings and queens silence, traditional leaders silence. So who go say the truth? We are them go so confused the call. Now by area why no better. We are them go so confused the call. One guy's out here why no better. Who go say the truth? Who go say the truth? Oh, he need it now, see what I see so. Now your friend on a night come at them. Only baby obeka nice and yeah. So I want one over to. Everybody was afraid. And when Tina to my cottage again, once my boy dumping one and I see. But who go tell the truth? Nanai or say me. Nanso bien person beka wasam because everybody is afraid. Anya safwe muayini. Aku drop for nyina dalima. Enti who go say the truth? Obiaja konson so to cross your mansa to me biaka kobrafo. Efo anyina ye. Efo when you know yet. Na so kutrata down na so be dia back or why no keke. I fene for be man mo pia for efo ne cross on my mo. Hanya safwe mo ayini. Akuku drop for you na dalima. And who go say the truth? Abaya di bote chino. Yedi bi bebo nyande bi Tachi sa udi oma upipi numa Would your mind never shine my frafonsa? But who go tell the truth? DUC, silence. Even journalists, silence. Oh, then who go say the truth? Right is right. Wrong is wrong, no matter how you justify. You say you wanna get rid of corruption. Someone want to help you, now the person become your target. Jobless no they mean senseless, poverty no they mean useless. One day them go resist.
A very good evening to you once again and welcome to MyView Show on today's Ghana News TV. Tonight, we are unpacking Ghana's 2025 budget and what it means for the economy, your pocket, my pocket, and the road ahead. It is always a great pleasure to come your way. And do remember that we are streaming live on all our social media networks. So those of you far away outside the EU, you can connect us on today's Ghana News TV. And wherever you are, do subscribe. And remember to share the link so that others could have the opportunity to join us. And as you rightly know, the Minister of Finance has presented the budget on behalf of His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana. What are the implications for you and I? That is what I invite you this evening to join an expert who has so much knowledge in the economy and very good experience with reference to Ghana to share his views. And as usual, we will consider your views as you send in per the comments session. Once again, it's my pleasure to welcome you and take a break. Continue to share the link. When I come back, I will introduce to you my guest for this evening's show. Stay tuned.
Development project and Nkokwan Ketenkete are all key components of the program. Right, Honorable Speaker, we have also allocated 51.3 million Ghana cedis as seed fund for the establishment of the Women's Development Bank. Mr. Speaker, we have also allocated 300 million Ghana cedis to the National Apprenticeship Program. Mr. Speaker, I repeat, we have also allocated an amount of 300 million Ghana cedis to the National Apprenticeship Program. Right, Honorable Speaker, we have also allocated an amount of 100 million Ghana cedis to the Edumewura Program. Mr. Speaker, an amount of 100 million Ghana cedis has been allocated to the National Codes Program. Mr. Speaker, another amount of 100 million Ghana cedis has been allocated for the payment of monthly allowance to all assembly members.
So, welcome back, and this is MyView Show coming to you live on today's Ghana News TV. And today we are unpacking the 2025 budget and what it means for the economy, your pocket, my pocket, and the road ahead. And joining me is a man who needs no long introduction, in the person of Mr. Bernard Oduro-Otaki, popularly known as BOT, a renowned chartered economist with many years of insight on Ghana's fiscal policy. BOT, it's great to have you with us this evening.
Jerome, the pleasure is all mine. And let me also express my deepest appreciation for the opportunity offered me, because your platform is very huge and it's reachable to many people across the globe. And that when people are offered such bigger platform, we don't take it for granted. And I can assure you, we are going to have a very merit-based discussion. We'll do a bit of slight politics, but it's going to be very professional. You can't take the politics out, because politics determine everything. But I can assure you, we are going to have fruitful discussion, professional discussion, knowledge-based, fact and science-based, and we are going to enjoy the show.
Wonderful. A lot of people are up there, and nobody wants to miss it. And I'm pretty sure we are going to start big and we'll end big. Definitely. Yo. Definitely. Yes. So let's just start it. Let's get a ball rolling. The President of the Republic presented his budget through the Finance Minister recently, budget for 2025. From where you sit, what's your initial reaction to the 2025 budget? Does it really hit the right notes, or are there red flags already?
Sure. First of all, let me state clearly that putting up a budget is not the issue, but it's a commitment behind the budget. Because budget simply is a projective tool. It's just a financial tool to look at possibly your inflows and your outflow. So a balance between these two gives you what a financial instrument we call the budget. So fundamentally and practically with budgets, you are looking at mostly the fiscal element of the government. That notwithstanding, over the years, if you take the budget, it is the budget statement and economic policy. And most of the time, the fundamental focus of people has been the budget because that is more the quantitative element. Because the quantitative part talks about the figures. How much is going to the ministry, department, agency? How much are they expecting? What is going to agriculture, aviation, industry, parastatal, state-owned enterprises? What is going into debt servicing? What allocation is made for social intervention programs? So many people, 95% attention are shifted on the quantitative element of the budget.
Yeah.
But for me as an economist, I will always want to situate my attention on the qualitative aspect of the budget. And the qualitative aspect of the budget has to do with what we call the various economic policies beneath short, medium, or long term. So if you take agriculture, there used to be subsistence policies like planting for food and job, rearing for food and export. This used to be the subsistence policy. If you are taking over a governance and you are rolling out your first budget for the next year ahead, what is going to be your possible alternative agricultural policy in place of planting for food and job, rearing for food and export? Now let me take you to education. You came to meet free SHS policy, and many people will agree without mentioning words that the free SHS has had itself quarantined with so much problem. So beyond you as a government, what other alternative educational policies are you going to introduce beyond allocating, let's say, 3.5 billion to say is going to take care of free SHS, tertiary education, etc.? What will be your other alternative economic policy? So straightjackedly, our discussion today will look at two broad thematic areas. We'll look at the quantitative aspect of the budget, and we'll look at the qualitative aspect of the budget. The quantitative deals with the figures, how much is going to each ministry, department, agency. But beyond the veil, what are the alternative economic policies? So if somebody is watching and the person is a businessman, educationist, a professional, a traveler, foreign investor, domestic investor, what will occasion his confidence in the economy? That's going to be, but that when I put all together, every national budget in a country like Ghana ought to meet three key criteria. Every national budget ought to meet three key criteria. Number one, the budget must engender growth. The budget must engender growth. And by growth, we're looking at the economic growth. And the economic growth, we're looking at in terms of the growth of the economy. If you took the aggregate growth from 5.7 as of 2024, how are you looking at upscaling that growth to, let's say, 7%, 6.8%? I do agree that in some economies, because most finance ministers and government statisticians are appointed by the government, you can have a paper growth. And a paper growth is the kind of a growth that doesn't seem to reflect in the people's standard of living. So government can tell you, we grew by 5.7%. The global target globally was, let's say, 3.6%. So if Ghana government made 5.7% and globally, the global target for 2024 was 3.6%, then the government of Ghana has done so well that we grew by, let's say, 1.8% net positive difference compared to the global target. But you can have a 5.7% economic growth in 2025, but that growth may not translate into the positive standard of living of the people. So number one element or criteria of the budget criterion is the growth. And like I said, the growth economically must have a cascading positive impact in the lifestyle of the people. Number two is about employment. Every fiscal year budget must also ensure that you have reasonable kind of employment that will put the people to work. You must not just have a knee-jerk approach, a kind of a NAPCO kind of employment. A NAPCO kind of employment that was purely political. A NAPCO kind of employment that was just meant to win election. And when the election was over, NAPCO became more of fruitless. So every national budget, every fiscal year budget must ensure that employment becomes very sustainable. You must be conscious about program, project, and action and activity to ensure that the government must put in place the enabling environment to engender creation of employment opportunity. The third one, which is very important and feed into the political ideology of the NDC, is what I refer to as redistribution strategy, national redistribution strategy. What does that mean? Don't forget that if you look at the ideological underpinning of the NDC, you're basically talking about social democracy. And by social democracy, you are talking about comradeship, social justice, equity, etc. What it simply means is that if you put the ideological underpinning of the NDC as against the MPP in pari passu, you realize that the NDC is social democratic in nature. The MPP is property owning democracy, which simply means is that you want to engender the few to be richer. You want to empower the few elite class. You want a certain sizable number of people to be termed. These are the rich people. However, within the ideological underpinning of the NDC, you're talking about your focus is on the masses, the downtrodden, the less privileged. That is why in the 2025 budget, we're looking at free sanitary pads for children going to school. We're looking at scholarship for persons living with disability up to final year in the university. You're looking at free tuition fees here to them in the university, maintaining teacher and nursing training allowances. You're looking at a huge budget for free SHS education. You're looking at the big push. You are looking at restoring free fertilizer policy regime. When a government elevates itself to do these things, then you can say that you are redistributing wealth, because in the redistribution wealth strategy, you are looking at programs and actions that will reach out to everybody. So you don't create a case society whereby the few become richer and the plenty become poorer. So in a nutshell, the 2025 fiscal year budget and economic policy, in my view, must see to, one, tackle economic growth, ensure sustainable employment, and must also engender a national redistribution wealth strategy in such a way that the rich will be richer, but the poorer will have a breather. Social democracy is not against poverty, and it is also not against rich affluence. But you must find a balance between the two in such a way that the Kwame Despite, the Amoabins, the UT Bank owners, the Unibank owners, and all the richer people can still keep on being richer. At the same breath, the poorer person in my community, my municipality, my region can also say that even if I'm not as rich as Despite, GN Bank owner, UT Bank owner, whatever bank owner, because my child can have access to free SHS and going to university paying first year free education, I can be at most at a certain level with the affluence in the society.
Wow, wonderful. Especially, let me get back on something. You talked about the three elements: growth, employment, and redistribution of wealth, incomes. It looks like I think I'm jumping, but it looks like the growth reported currently is about 5.7.
Yeah.
The growth in the NDC budget seems to be lower than 5.7. Is it possible? And what could have account? Okay.
So you can have a certain growth. You know, when you take every economy in the ecosystem, there are primarily 17 real sectors of the economy, 17 real sectors of every key major economy. Now, if you look at the 17 real sectors of the economy, there are certain elements that are not controlled by the local people. Let me give you a practical example. Let me take you to the telecommunication industry of Ghana. If you take the telco industry of Ghana, take MTN, take Telecel or formerly Vodafone, take Airtel Tigo put together, you realize that the market share of MTN and Telecel put together is over 70% of the market share. However, Telecel and MTN are not owned by Ghanaians. A chunk of the shareholding structure are owned by foreigners. Let me take you to the banking sector. If you take the biggest bank in Ghana today, because of the cleanup of the banking sector by the erstwhile administration, a chunk of the banking sector control is in the hands of foreigners. Practical example, Amalgamated Bank of South Africa, GT Bank, Zenith Bank, Access Bank, etc. Because these banks are owned by foreign-dominated people, there is something we call profit repatriation. So, Jerome, let's put it this way. At the end of the fiscal year 2024, in the financial sector, these banks will prepare their financial statement and they can declare profit for the fiscal year 2024. Because these banks are largely owned by foreigners, if they make profit and they are paying dividend, Jerome, where do you think the dividend are going to go?
Okay.
So, because these banks are owned by foreigners, when they make profit and they come to dividend payment, it will lead to profit repatriation.
So you have capital flight.
Capital flight. You can have an economic growth of 5.7%, but when you do a real disaggregation of the key component of that growth, you realize that only about 1.2% stays locally. Go to the mining sector. If you take the big mining companies in Ghana, virtually few of them are owned by Ghanaians. In that case, if the Anglo Gold, if the whatever mines are making huge profit in the mining sector, because they are not owned by local people and the profit are made, the profit will end up going back to their origin. So let me take you back to fiscal year 2024. In the fiscal year 2024, according to the Ghana Statistical Service, the growth ended at 5.7%. But when you sit back and do introspection and extrapolation, you realize that this 5.7 growth is not owned by the local people. The local content of that growth is just about 1.2%. So practically about 4.5% of this growth are owned by foreign people. So in effect, the net effect of the growth of 5.7% is that if you take the local content component of that growth, it's infinitesimal. So yes, I agree with you that according to the manifesto and the budget statement, the NDC government projected growth for 2025 is far below the 2024 growth of 5.7. And I, as an economist, I want to see a growth that translates into the well-being of the people. I don't want to see a kind of a growth that is a paper growth. A paper growth simply means that in reality, in paper terms, the economy is ballooning, it's expanding. You are facing maybe expansionary nature of the economic growth. But when the economy is expanding, the local component part of that expansionary economy is limited.
That's true. So in that sense, looking at this, our budget, is it an expansionary budget or is just more on a cautious side? Okay, so let me come in here. Let me draw a situational analysis to give your listeners and your viewers an appreciation of the persona behind every budget, which is very important. Because, Jerome, the truth is that every budget statement and economic policy, by extension, is the extensive personification of the finance minister. So the finance minister you have has a toll and a bearing on your national budget. Okay. Let me give you practical two case study. Let me take you to budget statement of Ken Oforiatta, Honorable Ken Oforiatta in the past. Who is Ken Oforiatta? Ken Oforiatta practically is an investment banker. As an investment banker, his focus is all about financial engineering. He looks at how he can embark on financial engineering. How can I borrow to make my commission? So fundamentally, the financial management mindset and the scope of Ken Oforiatta was largely about financial engineering. So in his era, you could see government of Ghana was seen as a borrowing instrument. Yeah. Now let me come to 2025 going. You have a finance minister who is a tax practitioner, who is a chartered accountant, who is a certified fiscal economist, who is a PhD holder in public finance, who has been in parliament for several years. The approach of Dr. Keslato Forsen, as opposed to Ken Oforiatta, will be diametrically opposed. If you look at his first year budget, in as much as he increased a certain tax element,
he did not introduce any new taxes.
New tax.
However, Dr. Keslato Forson ensured that certain taxes that were termed as nuisance taxes by Ghanaians were scrapped off. What were some of those taxes? He took away COVID-19, he took away betting tax, he took away many other taxes that Ghanaians were not comfortable. At the end of the day, those taxes that were seen as regressive have been taken off. However, as an economist, no country can develop without taxation. So in the element of, when you look at the canons of taxation, you are looking at efficiency, economy, how people should not be given the room to avoid taxes. And when taxes become so unbearable, the safest route for the business community and individual is to avoid the taxes. Obviously, tax evasion is legal, who can warrant to criminal prosecution. So every businessman or woman may not attempt to evade tax, but in his attempt not to bear too much tax burden on him or her, may want to avoid taxes. So if you look at the 2025 budget statement, it did not introduce fresh taxes or new taxes altogether, though certain tax brackets were increased. So for me, the 2025 budget statement, number one, is an element that want to ensure a cautious growth. Okay. The 2025 budget want to achieve a cautious growth. Number two, the 2025 budget want to ensure tangible employment opportunity, very tangible one. And why am I saying so? You have a budget statement that is saying that I'm allocating 100 million Ghana cedi to a Jumeirah policy. A Jumeirah policy simply means that you want local people to be their businessmen and businesswomen themselves. You have a budget that is allocating 300 million Ghana cedi to National Apprenticeship Program. It means that you want to promote hands-on experience. You have a budget statement that is allocating 3.5 billion to free SHS. What it simply means is that you want to still sustain a social intervention policy that has been upheld by Ghanaians. You have a budget statement that is allocating 9.93 billion to health. That simply means that health is wealth. So if your health insurance scheme is facing teething challenges, is at the brink of collapse, the budget allocated the biggest chunk of its budgetary allocation to health. Because, Jerome, don't forget that health is wealth. A healthy nation is a wealthy nation. Beyond that, you have a budget statement that is allocating 100 million Ghana cedi to coding program. Coding program simply means that the world of today is on the shoulders of ICT. So any government that prioritizes ICT is a government that you must be proud of. Again, you have a budget that is allocating over, put together cumulatively, over 700 million Ghana cedi into nursing training college and teacher training college allowances. You have a budget that's allocating 499.something million Ghana cedi into tertiary tuition fee for first year students into the university, etc. You have a government that is saying that for a person living with disability, I'm allocating over 50 million Ghana cedi for free tuition for person living with disability. So when you put all these things together, you have a government that is saying that I'm going to restore free fertilizer program. And the implication is that you are easing the burden of the poor cocoa farmer in the country. When I see all these things, then it tells me that the budget is a progressive one. It is forward-looking. It is characteristic of, and the last of it all. For the very first time since 1989, when local government concept was introduced, you have a budget in a fiscal year that has introduced 100 million Ghana cedi to cater for allowances of assembly members in Ghana. This has never happened before. And let me tell you, every politics and governance is local. So any government that begin to look at the substructure of the government pyramid, you are looking at the unit committee, area council, zonal council, assembly members.
I hope
any government that the people. So when you put this thing together, that should tell you that the budget, in my candid view, is progressive, developmentally, is oriented, and it is cut across taking key interests of everybody. My joy in the budget, my brother, was the component where I saw that sanitary pad allocation is going to be going back. In fact, can't even afford sanitary pad.
That's very interesting. So it means that even looking at the budget, this year's budget, well, before I even get, I think the NDC has learned a very good lesson, because the allowances paid to the nursing training and the teacher training is a clear exhibition of the redistribution of our own wealth, you know.
Yeah.
And they missed it the last time, but they have revived it, and we are hoping that things will go further. So this year's budget actually places a lot of emphasis on this distributions of free pads, allowances for teachers. You have the apprenticeship program, infrastructure development, digitalization, as you rightly said, the coding and all that, and especially social protection. So in your view, what are the key priorities driving the budget, and how do they align with Ghana's current needs?
Okay, thank you so much for your question. I think that if you look at the Ghana economic situation today, the president put it bluntly that the economy was criminally mismanaged. Yeah. So we're not only talking about economic mismanagement, we're talking about criminal mismanagement of the economy. Now, anytime you have a criminal mismanagement of an economy, the first thing you ought to do as a government is to restore public confidence. According to Bloomberg, every day, in every 24 hours, over $1 trillion move globally across the globe. Okay. Your ability as a country to attract a portion of that into your country is contingent on the confidence of people within the government. So when people trust your government and have confidence in your government, then they are tempted to say that, look, if I am putting my investment, let's say Togo and Ghana, in pari passu, because of the confidence in the government, I'll prefer to take my investment to Ghana as compared to Togo. So the first thing every government must do is to engender public trust and confidence. And that is why, Jerome, when between March 3rd and 4th, 2025, when the government of Ghana instigated the National Economic Dialogue, or the forum, that sought to brainstorm and solicit the views of other independent-minded professionals, other stakeholders, civil society, the media, other political actors. When I saw the government took that step, I told myself that, look, this government is on the trajectory to restore public confidence. When I heard my brothers on the other side, they put the idea, rounded it down, and said that, look, there is no meritocracy in wasting the meager national resources to do such a program. I told myself that the MPP has a very, very, very tangential understanding on how you must govern a country. Because, Jerome, to govern a country, you must be seen to bring everybody to the center. You must not be seen as the monopolies of intelligence. You must not be seen as a too-knowing government. But you might be seen as a government that is listening. And come to think about it, the NDC government, then in opposition a year ago, introduced the Resetting Ghana manifesto, which became the social contract between the incoming government and the government. Now, the manifesto was premised on job accountability and prosperity. If you have one power and you need the voice of the people or the input of the government into your governance trajectory, the best you can do is to hold a rallying grounds and to say that, look, everybody bring your input. So for me, I saw the National Economic Dialogue as both a pre and post validation forum that needed the consensus of Ghanaians to say that this is the path we are all charting. And the first element that gave me the confidence, that gave me the impetus to believe that the NDC government will succeed and shall succeed was the National Economic Dialogue that was instigated by the government to get what we call pre and post validation, not only of the NDC manifesto, but the new development that was emerging. Because, Jerome, don't forget that in the moment of campaigning and drafting your manifesto, certain things that you focus on, things can change.
Yeah.
The only thing that is constant is death. Apart from death, any other thing changes.
Yeah.
And in economics, it is said that all other things being equal, ceteris paribus. And don't forget that other things can never be equal. So there will always be variation. It is either it is above or below. The concept of economic equilibrium does not exist in reality. In real life, what pertains and persists is either it is above or below. So number one, let me take you to certain practical elements of the National Economic Dialogue, and from there, I may zoom in to the question that you posed to me.
Okay.
In the National Economic Dialogue, one of the very things that caught my attention in the communique was that the NDC government will seek to marry fiscal and monetary policy operations. What does that supposed to mean? The fiscal policy regime is the job of the finance ministry. The monetary policy operations is the job of the Bank of Ghana. In the past, you have the Bank of Ghana running to the left, finance ministry running to the right, in opposite direction. The National Economic Dialogue said that no, if you want to properly reposition the economic trajectory of the country, you must find a point of convergence between how the fiscal policy regime and the monetary policy regime operate. So you don't have a governor of the Bank of Ghana who will just wake up and go and print money in excess of 10 billion Ghana cedi, 20 billion Ghana cedi, who to end up ballooning the national debt of the country. Number two, the National Dialogue in the communique stated that there is something you call the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2018 Act 982. In that particular act, it is enjoining all public office holders to be fiscally responsible for their actions. But Jerome, you and I will admit that a lot of state-owned enterprise CEOs and Director General, they incur national indebtedness and they go scot-free. Today, Bank of Ghana is indebted over 100 billion Ghana cedi. ECG over 100 billion Ghana cedi. Cocoa Board over 32 billion Ghana cedi. And a host of other state-owned enterprises that are in red. So what this Fiscal Responsibility Act is seeking to do is that when SOEs, MDs, and CEOs willfully intentionally causing financial loss to the state, they should not be allowed to go scot-free. They must be allowed to pay. Again, in the same communique of the National Economic Dialogue, it talks about the fact that Cocoa Board should be subsumed under Finance Ministry. It is simply because Cocoa Board is gradually becoming a liability entity to the government of Ghana. So practically, Cocoa Board that is supposed to become an income-earning venture for the government of Ghana, Cocoa Board has metamorphosed into a liability-incurring venture for the government. How do you mitigate and control that? The National Economic Dialogue proposed that going forward, Cocoa Board should be brought under Ministry of Finance so that Finance Ministry can have a supervisory role to ensure that the continuous indebtedness of Cocoa Board can be curtailed. The next element of it that caught my attention was how do we promote private sector-led growth to unlock opportunity of full potential in business operation. It said that there is something we call bank cash reserve ratio. Bank cash reserves simply mean that once banks are being formed, there are certain minimum capital requirements they have to meet. Beyond the minimum capital requirement, they also have to meet what you call the enhanced capital requirement. In the enhanced capital requirement, there's what you call the bank cash reserve, which must be kept at the Bank of Ghana. What the National Dialogue came to consensus is that that bank reserve must be made available for people to lend to people so that credit to be available and the cost of borrowing can be cheaper. The last of it all, in the communique, the National Economic Dialogue also came to a consensus that the state must begin to look at political party financing. political party financing because people may not know how they get their finances from. So anybody wakes up one day, I want to be an MP, I want to be a president. He runs an expensive campaign, and nobody knows where the money comes from. Whether the money came from cocaine dealers, money laundering, etc. Nobody knows. The National Economic Dialogue proposed that going forward, Ghana as a country must begin to have a legislation or a law. And that law must begin to say that in moving forward, we want to fund political party participation. Now, this particular National Economic Dialogue became the precursor for the national budget. So when the national budget came, then you asked me a question about the priority of the government. Now, permit me to touch on certain immediate comparison from 2024 up to 2025. And the one very first thing I'll put across is that I'll commend the government for running a lean government. Lean government in the sense that I don't see why a small country like Ghana, you want to have over 100 ministers. It doesn't make economic sense. So when His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, then in opposition, proposed that, look, I'm going to run the most leanest government under the Fourth Republic, people propose and thought that, oh, it's a political thought. He cannot do it. But he has delivered. Today, he is even yet to make the 60 ministers. It's left plus 4 deputy ministers. So now he has done 56 or less ministers, left with 4 or so to add up. That for me is commendable because it is sending a signal to the international community that the Ghana government is fiscally prudent. Because if you are going to China, UK, US, or Europe to borrow money, and the Chinese government has less than 40 ministers, US has less than 50 ministers, Germany has less than that, and you, the small country, at the intensive care unit, has over 100 ministers, then you are not making any economic sense when you are going to China for any financial support. So the first thing I will commend the government is that being able to become audacious and bold enough. And Jerome, when you run a lean government, publicly you smile, but in home you cry. Because you have so many NDC people expecting appointment, they will end up not getting the appointment. So in the public domain, everybody will be clapping for Mr. President, will be clapping for the NDC government. But when you come to home, the home means the NDC as a political party nomenclature, people will not be happy for you. So yes, that is the first. And then number 2, you realize that the government is trying to cut costs across ministry, department, agencies. Even allowances they are paying to people, they are slashing down. Beyond that, presidential staffers, they are cutting down. And Jerome, a quick comparison. In the year 2024, road fund, the MPP government allocated 1.1 billion for road fund. In 2025, the NDC government has increased it from 1.1 billion to 2.81 billion, which is about 155.5% increment. And let me tell you, any government in a less developed country like Ghana that prioritizes road development, that government is a conscious government. That government is a conscionable government because we have a lot of deplorable roads. So the NDC government has moved road fund allocation from 1.1 billion to a whopping 2.81 billion. Today, DRIP, which is the District Road Improvement Program, has come to stay. And the NDC government has given it a national coordinator. That is supposed to tell you that the NDC government shall be committed to ensuring that roads are well maintained. The next one is school feeding program. The MPP government in the past allocated 1.34 billion to school feeding program. The NDC government today has increased it to 1.78 billion, which is 33% pay point increment. Now let me take you to captation grant. And when we say captation grant, we are talking about in the past, we used to pay sporting fee, cultural fee, printing fee, etc., etc. The MPP government only allocated 84 million to captation grant. The NDC government has increased it from 84 million to 145 million, an increment of 73%. Let me take you to LEAP, Livelihood Empowerment Again program. The MPP government allocated 728 million. The NDC government today has increased it to 953 million, an increment of 30% plus. Now, when I put this social intervention together, that should tell you that indeed the NDC government prioritizes the less privileged, the downtrodden, and takes care of the interests of the poor.
Wonderful. Hey, so well, in all this, we all know that Ghana has been grappling with inflation, cedi depreciation, and then the rising debt. So in all this, how does this budget address these microeconomic challenges?
Precisely. Now, you will realize I've already touched on some of the key interventions. The Jumeirah coding program, national apprenticeship program. And let me tell you, any government that fails to democratize wealth, you are heading for trouble. I repeat, any government that fails to democratize wealth, you are heading for trouble. How do you democratize wealth? You must democratize wealth by giving the economy to local. I am not against foreign people coming to do business in Ghana. But when the chunk of your economy is owned and run by foreigners, you are heading for trouble. It means that you are gentility in you are gentle in town, you are home cry. If you look at the 2025 budget statement, it is targeting how the local people can play role in the economy. How are they doing it? It is telling you that we want to designate a specific bank for women in Ghana. This has never happened before. And we are going to have agriculture special program, 1.5 billion for agriculture. It is telling you that when it comes to health, we've launched what you call the Mahama Care. Now, when you ask a question, how are we going to marry the interplay between the macro and the micro? I will tell you, there is a synergy between the governor of the Bank of Ghana and the finance minister. That is why, as of today, when they took over, you can still have inflation being contained. And I can predict that in the fiscal year 2025, we may end the inflationary target around between 15 to 20%. And that simply means that when inflation is contained, it means that the poor person can have a breather. On the macroeconomic key indicators, you are talking about policy rate, exchange rate, inflation rate, crime rate, unemployment rate, international reserve. Because we are looking at the audacious 24-hour economic policy, the audacious 24-hour economic policy will create certain allowances for job for people. When the people begin to earn gainful employment, the tax bracket of the government goes up, their contribution to productivity goes up, economic growth goes up, your exportation can go up, and the net effect will be a cycle. I can assure you, when things remain as they are, and the government remain focused, and the finance ministry and the Bank of Ghana work in tandem, the macroeconomic key indicators will be in the positive. However, we are going to have the manifestation effect of these policies from 2026 and 2027 going. For the fiscal year 2025, we may not experience much more feasible impact of the policies. But as we enter into 2026, 2027, there will be a manifestation of the policies now in those first, second, and third year going.
Wow. That's a beautiful presentation. Our time is running out, but I want you to just take a sip of water. I'll read the messages from our followers, and then when we come back, we want to find out from you how the budget affects the average Ghanaian when we come back. Okay. Well, this has been the show, MyView Show, coming to you live on Today's Ghana News TV, your authentic television network where we empower and we educate. Grateful that you are part of the show. We want to take the messages from our followers. Oh, Patience is our first person here. Patience says, good evening, watching from Hamburg, Germany. BOT, God's time is the best. Wonderful. Ghana Himfie, wow. I love watching and hearing from BOT. He is a smooth communicator with firebrand. Watching from Busunsu in the Fantiakwa South District. Oh, Alfred. Oh, my big boss. Watching you live from Bielefeld, Germany. Alfred, very good evening to you. We are grateful that you are part of the show. Frimpon says, good evening. In my opinion, the budget is very favorable to the disabled and the ordinary person watching from Akusenia, Somoya. Mavis says, watching on YouTube from Lisbon, Portugal, BOT on fire as usual. Please, we need to hear from you the more on this channel. You have the support of the grassroots. Mavis will keep him as much as he has time. We'll make sure that we have him, and we'll do a lot of education. Lady Mal says, my love for BOT has grown stronger watching him tonight. Please kindly ask him if he is still the special aide to Honorable Dr. Samuel Ofosu Ampafo, watching on Switch from St. Petersburg, Russia. Lady Mal, I would ask him. Sakwa family, we are grateful that you are carrying our feet, and more importantly, you are saying that the budget is an organic homegrown policy. NDC always thinking about the people, watching from Jimopo near Kofo region. We are grateful, Sakwa, and the entire family. Kwesi Insian says, good evening. Some proponents of the government are saying that there is nothing on the 24-hour economy policy in the budget. How true is that? Watching from Anglo Town in Koforidua. Okay, we would find out. Well, BOT is not speaking for government, but he has more knowledge from the NDC perspective. Jaframa TV says, good show and good presentation by BOT. Greetings from Ravra in the OT region. Jaframa, we are grateful that you're carrying our feet as well. Okay, Kwekuyevu says, I am loving the show. BOT is usual best. BOT, you are the best. Watching from Suhum in the eastern region. Diaspora Union, good evening, Dr. Jerome and your team, watching from Amsterdam, Holland. Grateful. Frema says, this is a very deep economic discussion, watching from Manchaniaho. We're grateful, Frema. Oh, Rick Alfred is back. Very insightful show. Thank you, BOT. Asampa Hine says, watching and listening from Achen Himan. Wonderful evening show. BOT is doing well for party and country. Nana Tafremu, wow, we're grateful once again. Ghana is moving at the right direction. There should be a part 2 of this program. Greetings from Tatali, Northern Region and Sakina Information Center listeners. I'm sure my producer will work at that. Be rest assured. Bob says, this is a wonderful presentation by BOT, watching from Paris, France. Kumba says, watching from South Africa, Cape Town. Oh, we're grateful that you're part of the show, Kumba. Nyami says, good evening, watching from Inkonta in the Oti region. Your program is also live from Adalima Community Information Center at Tutupen and Kajevi. We're grateful that you are carrying our feet as well. And this is MyView Show live on today's Ghana News TV, and with a very big discussion with no other person but BOT on the budget of 2025 for Ghana. So we'll come back to BOT. Our time is fast spent. We just have we'll look at one question and we'll see what next we can do. And then the part 2 definitely has to follow up, because when you have a powerful and knowledgeable person in the area, you have to give the opportunity to all your listeners and followers. So, BOT, before we went, I just told you that we want to look at how this budget affects the average Ghanaian.
Sure. The difference in the perspective or the focus of the budget has to do with the ideological underpinning of MPP, NDC. And when you don't have this clear appreciation, you may not. You see, the NDC is there for the less privileged. That is why when you go to I'll come to the 24-hour economy. I'll come to it, but let me touch on certain few key indicators.
Okay.
One, in order allocation, let us take person living with disability. And Jerome, for the records of your audience and your viewers and your listeners, I had a gunshot at the age of 15. So I'm a person living with disability. So matters of disability goes to my heart. And I have never seen a government that love person living with disability so much than the NDC government. And I can debate anybody on this. Not because I'm in the NDC, but these are matters of public records and facts.
Okay.
The NDC was the first political party in Africa to establish a desk for persons living with disability, the first party in Africa. And that is why in its first budget for 2025 fiscal year, they are telling us that person living with disability, when you are going to tertiary institution, it will be free for you. The person with disability.
Our beautiful show has been interrupted, and I'm pretty sure that we'll reconnect with BOT, and then we continue from there. But this has been a wonderful discussion unpacking the 2025 budget for the country, Ghana. I mean, one thing that is clear is about the lessons the NDC has learned. They've gone back to ensure that there is redistribution of wealth, which is a key thing, and we are happy with that. So, as we lost you briefly.
Now, yeah, so for the NDC to think of person living with disability, it caught my attention. Again, the common fund allocation to all districts in Ghana for person living with disability has also been shot up. Again, sanitary pad that has become a burden and headache for most parents, for young girls, the NDC has restored it. Again, capitation grant payment that hitherto in the past administration became an albatross on their neck, the NDC government has increased it. Again, teacher training college allowances, it's been increased. Nursing training college allowance, it's been increased. Again, the NDC is only not thinking about those who are educated, but NDC says that all people who want to take on apprenticeship, we are bringing apprenticeship right at your doorstep. The NDC is saying that the ordinary cocoa farmer in Ghana will give you free fertilizer. The NDC is saying that we are giving you big push. The NDC is saying that because health is wealth, we are giving you the biggest budget into health, 9.93 billion Ghana cedi. Not only that, the NDC government is saying that in order to redistribute national wealth, if members of parliament are being paid, assembly members ought to be given allowance. Ask our colleagues MPP, did they ever think of assembly members in Ghana? No. Because the local governance is the baby of the NDC from 1989 by Rawlings, it took the NDC over 30 years later to say that every assembly member in Ghana will be accorded a monthly allowance of 1,300 Ghana cedi or above. Again, one of your contributors asked a question about the 24-hour economy and said that they have not found any face or favor of that policy. Look, the 24-hour economy will have a special legislative instrument. There is going to be a specific law. There's going to be a legal regime that will be set up. That legal regime will provide the specific into the policy. So our brothers and sisters in the MPP, they should take a hot tea and wait for us. The 24-hour economy is not a knee-jerk approach. It is not a 9-day wonder. It is a meticulous, well-thought-out policy that shall be done. And to be able to do it, the NDC government is taking steps to have a law to back it. One of them also asked a question about whether I am an aide to Ofosu Ampofo. The answer is no. I am close to him, but I'm not his aide. If anybody wants an information to be passed on to him, I can volunteer to do that, but I'm not his personal aide. I think that's all for now.
Okay. In fact, time is far running because we'll leave out, as I said, we'll leave out the sector analysis regional and global context, so that when we come back for part 2, we'll look at it in that order.
Well,
but
maybe if you're gonna get me to your show, we can look at once every 2 months or once every 3 months.
Yeah, I understand. But we'll work out something We'll work out something. Yeah.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure a lot of people, like the young ones who are sending in messages here, clearly you have given out the apprenticeship and all those things. That is about job creation and then youth empowerment and even empowering the ordinary person on the street. But one may be asking, the IMF conditionalities,
right,
could those affect our budgetary implementation?
If you have a government that believes in austerity and fiscal prudence, it cannot affect us too much. Obviously, whether we like it or yes, as a country, once you subject yourself into the whims and caprices of the International Monetary Fund, certain terms and conditions apply. And some of them could be moratorium or caveat on public sector recruitment, moratorium on capital expenditure. But when you spend prudently and you're able to mobilize enough domestic revenue, the IMF terms and conditions, though, may affect you as a country, but you can contain it.
Okay.
The last of it is the government's ability to roll out ORA, Operation Recover All the Loot. If the NDC government will have a two-sword approach, whilst we are chasing past government, we must also put in place a certain mechanism that current appointees must also not look at it as a safe haven to abuse their portfolios. So I agree. If you look at today, the pressure by the Attorney General and the Minister for Justice, if you are looking at the chronicle of investigation they are doing so far, at the end of the 2025 fiscal year, I'm sure the government may be able to recoup about no less than 2 billion Ghana cedi. And this is an unbudgeted amount. So if the government is able to raise that money from Operation Recover All the Loot, that can be able to cushion the government in other jurisdictions. But that, having said that, current appointees under the government must also realize that the stick where we take beat bar, we go fit take beat techi. So that is a two-sword approach you must also adopt.
Yeah, that's a very powerful one. That one, I agree with you perfectly, because the NDC has no opportunity to fail Ghanaians.
Yeah.
The NDC has no opportunity to fail Ghanaians. So definitely, whilst we are running after the past government, our own appointees who are in government or whoever has gotten the opportunity to serve the people on behalf of the president must do it very prudently and take into consideration the situation that we found ourselves.
Gerald, before you round up, quick one. Now we've done the professional discussion. Let me just a minute to talk about politics. 1 minute.
Okay.
The future of the NDC depends on what we do with Victory 2024. And let me be very honest with you. I am very anxious that if we in the NDC will remain robust, modest, humble, considerate, minimize corruption, Jerome, let me get on the show. We will spend 16 years in power and above. I repeat, if we in the NDC can be moderate, humble, fiscally prudent, control corruption to a certain level, and be measured in our public outlook, we may be able to spend 16 years and over in government. But when we go even 20% of what the MPP did, we may be short-lived because winning by 57% presidential, more than 2/3 majority in parliament is unprecedented. Gargantuan victory ever under the Fourth Republic. This must tell us that the expectation of Ghanaians on the government is very huge, very immeasurable. We must live within a certain limit that Ghanaians will never regret giving us political power. And last of it all, Niccolo Machiavelli said that political power is very much more sweeter than sex. So when you get political power and you put it to good use, the people will renew your mandate, renew your mandate, renew your mandate. And if care is not taken, there will be a one-party state in the near future. But if we miss that trap and go the MPP way, we may suffer the consequences thereof.
But you have said it perfectly. You have hit a nail on the head. I think I saw an article as soon as the NDC won. There was an article that was also admonishing the NDC and their appointees, their behavior and everything that could either make the NDC the best party or the NDC the worst party ever in our democratic dispensation. Once you have gone into that area, let me ask you just one question. Now, we are all observing what is going on, the appointments that are going on left and right, and almost all your NDC national executives and some regional executives and the rest have been given appointments. How are they going to maintain your party to enable you go into the next?
The NDC has never run short of human resources. If 30 go by will come, there are more people when given the opportunity can perform. So don't let anybody run short of confidence that once National Communication Officer, youth organizer, deputy, they've all taken appointment, the party no. The NDC, what the government must do, this is my humble suggestion, humble one to them. Then the NDC must appoint people to fill those vacancies so that those who have taken appointment can focus on the appointment and those who want to run the party can run the party. So I'm using your platform to humbly recommend and suggest to the government nomenclature and the party architecture that for all those who have taken government positions, they should renounce their party positions so that the party can appoint people to fill those vacancies. So, for example, we can appoint people to act as national youth organizer. We can appoint people to act as national communication officer. Other than that, you may be thinking, this is your national youth organizer who is the youth minister. In reality, he can tell you, oh, I can combine the two. It's a lie. It's a lie. So my suggestion is that if the national leadership, the national chairman, general secretary, the president, and they are watching me through your medium, I will humbly suggest they should hold an emergency FEC or NEC meeting and appoint people to fill anybody who is a national officer and has taken up an appointment. When we do that, we can have the government run efficiently and the party structure running efficiently.
That is very perfect. I know at least I've seen Dr. Ampafo along the line with us, so all of them are up there. I hope the next meeting they will bring it to their attention and then they will act on it very fast.
Did you see Dr. Ampafo is on the line?
Yeah, he was watching.
Oh, somebody asked whether I'm his aide. I'm sure he heard it. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, once you are part and parcel of the NDC, I will not ask you to grade the budget. But finally, what one thing should Ghanaians watch out for or closely over the next few months as the budget rolls out?
Okay. You know, Jerome, one thing I love about the NDC, one as a party, two as a government, is the listening element in the NDC. MPP does not listen. No. MPP feels they know it all. NDC is a political party that listens to the grassroots. One assurance I can give Ghanaians.
Wow. We will have to take that assurance. My producer has to see what it is. We must take that assurance that he has for Ghanaians at all costs. Yes.
Yeah. Can I go ahead, please?
Yes, please.
Now, Jerome, I'm using your medium to tell Ghanaians that though officially I'm not part of the government, but I'm part of the government. Because it is a party that gives birth to government. Government doesn't give birth to a party. So we all contributed to bring the government to being. So in an indirect factor position, the differentiator between the NDC as a political party and the MPP is that the NDC listens to people, whether it is the party membership, grassroots stakeholders, political opponents, and Ghanaians. So the assurance is that when the key characteristics of the NDC is the listening ability, the NDC government and the party will not take Ghanaians for granted. We all work together to bring the government to being. So the party gave birth to the government. So when we see the government going wayward, drifting off, we will hold the moral turpitude and the high ground to bring the government on track. But Ghanaians should be rest assured that the NDC, its listening ability, made the NDC amenable to public feedback and complaint. Last of it all, when you read organizational development, it tells you that feedback is a gift. Yeah. So if the NDC, in its first attempt to perform, organize the National Dialogue or National Economic Forum, that alone should tell Ghanaians that the NDC is on the course to listen to your genuine concern. Of course, we can't have it 100% right. There will be mechanical inaccuracies, margin of error. These are allowable rooms. Yeah. But I can tell Ghanaians about Papa no Waba government.
Wonderful, Abai Papa.
We shall deliver.
Definitely. That is beauty for you. It's always a pleasure having you here. And I want to say on behalf of my producer, thank you very much for the sharp insights and for helping us break down the budget in a way that truly connects with the people. And as the people have requested, we will ensure that we have the part 2 where we'll have the sectorial analysis and look at regional and global context. Thank you.
So anytime, my show specifically is on the economy. So like I told you, we can look at every 2 months. We can look at pure economic issue. We discuss it, but I will be available for you every 2 months.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. We will make use of it. Well, that has been MyView Show on today's Ghana News TV. Join us again next Monday, the same time, the same place, for more analysis and truth behind the numbers. Till then, I'm Jerome. Stay informed and stay empowered. Yehovah bless us all. Good night.
Where I come from, the truth is irony, just like animal farm.